I was already awake before she came through the door. The digital clock on the counter flashed 5:47 a.m. dawn hadn't fully broken, and the world outside was still hushed, quiet enough that I caught the soft click of the door lock turning from the outside. I stayed put at the kitchen table, my elbows resting on its surface, hands wrapped around a coffee mug I hadn't touched. Then the door swung open. Claire stepped inside like she owned the place, like she hadn't vanished overnight without a single message. She wore a black sweater I'd never seen before and carried her high heels dangling from one hand. Her hair hung loose, still a little damp. Her lipstick was gone, but her eyes sparkled, and she was smiling. Not the nervous kind of smile that tries to cover something up. This was different. A quiet, smug grin, like a teenager sneaking in after curfew and feeling proud for getting away with it. She didn't spot me at first. She dropped her shoes near the staircase and wandered over to the fridge, moving with the ease of a normal morning, like she hadn't walked out of the house at 9 p.m. for a supposed girls' night and disappeared until dawn. She poured herself a glass of orange juice, took a sip, and that's when her eyes finally landed on me. Her grin faltered, just slightly. "You're up early," she said, trying to keep her tone light, though I could hear the careful edge. "Couldn't sleep," I replied, unmoving. "Been up for a while." She strolled closer, her body language casual. "I didn't wake you. Things ran late. You know how Jenna gets after a couple glasses of wine." I gave a slow, deliberate nod. "Right. Funny thing, though, Claire." She tilted her head, curious. "You left your iPad on the counter last night." That was the first crack. I saw it right away. The faint hesitation, the subtle shift in her posture, the tiny pause before she spoke again. "I didn't even notice," she said softly. "I did," I said, "and I read everything." The smirk vanished completely. She didn't answer at once. She stood there frozen, clutching the glass of juice, eyes locked on mine. I didn't blink. "Adam," she finally began, her voice thin. I waited. I wasn't about to help her fill the silence. She set the glass down gently, like even the smallest sudden movement might trigger something dangerous. "Look, whatever you saw, I can explain." "That's good," I said, "because I've got questions." Claire gave a short, almost forced laugh. "Seriously? We're doing this right now." "I think now is perfect," I said evenly. "Let's start here. Who's Andrew?" She flinched barely, but I caught it. "He's no one. Just some guy Jenna knows. He was there last night. That's all." "Interesting," I said, "because your texts make it seem like you've known him for a while. And from what I saw, Jenna wasn't even there." Her mouth opened, then closed again. One hand drifted toward her side, like she didn't know where to put it. "I checked your messages with Jenna, too," I added, keeping my tone calm. "You haven't texted each other since last Thursday." Claire folded her arms across her chest. "So what? You're spying on me now?" "You left your iPad unlocked." "I didn't snoop. I didn't hack anything. I just read what was right there." I leaned back in my chair, eyes steady on hers. "You told Andrew to meet you at the Hilton bar at 10. You said, and I quote, you were finally ready to stop feeling guilty." She looked away, hand running through her hair. "Adam, I was drunk." "You weren't drunk when you sent those texts." She stepped back, exhaling sharply, her hand trembling slightly. "Okay, yes, I met him. I needed to get out. I needed to feel." She stopped herself, realizing that no version of that sentence would make her look better. "Honest? Loved? Alive?" I offered. Claire stared at the floor. I motioned toward the thick, sealed envelope sitting between us on the table. "You might want to open that." She didn't move. I stood up, taking a slow step closer. "It's not just text. There's more." For the first time that morning, real fear flickered across her face. She stared at the envelope like it might explode if she touched it. For a second, I thought she refused to touch it all, like ignoring it would somehow make the truth inside disappear. But finally, she reached out, moving as though pulling something from fire, and peeled the flap open. Photographs slid out. Not blurry shots. Not pixelated screenshots. Crystal clear pictures. Claire with Andrew at the bar, laughing, her hand resting on his chest, his arm curled around her waist. Shots of them entering the hotel lobby and later, stepping into the elevator together. Alone, I watched her face as she flipped through them one by one. With each image, her shoulders sagged lower, her lips parted slightly, her eyes glazed over, but she didn't cry. Not yet. She set the photos down and avoided my eyes. How? How did you get these? She whispered. A friend, I replied. Eli spotted you too. He happened to be out for drinks across the room. He wasn't even sure it was you until he sent me a few pictures to check. Claire said nothing. I nodded at the photos. Look at you in those, I said quietly, smiling. Relax. Not drunk. Not confused. You knew exactly what you were doing. She finally broke her silence. I didn't plan for it to go that far, but it did. Her voice cracked. It was one time, Adam. I swear, I didn't mean to hurt you. I kept my voice flat. You didn't mean for me to find out. Not the same thing. Her eyes brimmed with tears, but I didn't move. I let the silence hang there, heavy, suffocating. She tried once more. It was a mistake. I wasn't thinking. You were thinking. I cut in. You were texting. Planning. Meeting. That's what makes it worse. Her head dropped, and for the first time, Claire stopped trying to talk her way out of it. She simply stood there, silent, unraveling, completely out of excuses. Finally, her knees seemed to give up, and she sank slowly into the chair across from me. You really had someone follow me? She asked, her voice a hollow echo. No, I said simply. I didn't need to. Eli happened to be there. You didn't recognize him, but he recognized you. Claire rubbed her hands together, trying to process it all. So, you just sat here, waiting for me to walk in so you could throw this in my face? I raised an eyebrow. No, Claire, I wasn't supposed to be here at all. That got her attention. I told you I had a business trip out of town yesterday. Remember that? Claire gave a slow nod. Well, I continued. Things changed. The meeting got rescheduled. I was going to tell you once I landed. But I never left. I came back home, quietly, around 11. You were already gone by then. Claire blinked, her expression tightening. So you stayed here all night? I read your messages. Talked to Eli. Made a few calls. Printed everything I needed. And then I waited. She shook her head, a bitter edge creeping into her voice. So, this was all some big setup? I let a faint smile touch my lips. No, Claire, you set it up. I just happened to notice. She stood then, maybe try to reclaim a shred of control. It's not like I planned for this to happen. I wasn't thinking clearly. We've been so distant. You've been buried in your work. Stop, I said, cutting her off firmly. Don't you dare make this about me. I didn't flirt behind your back. I wasn't sneaking out wearing someone else's clothes. I didn't lie about where I was or who I was with. Her gaze dropped to the floor. This wasn't some spontaneous mistake. You told Andrew in those messages that you were sick of pretending, that it felt good not having to lie. Claire opened her mouth, but shut again without a word. You stopped pretending, I said quietly. Now I'm just catching up. And right then, she realized it. Not just that I had uncovered everything, but that I wasn't even angry. I was finished. And that's what rattled her the most. Her eyes followed me as I moved back toward the table. I pulled open a drawer beside it and took out another envelope. Thicker, heavier. I placed it down next to the stack of photos. Her voice came out soft, shaky. What's that? Divorce papers, I said. Filled them out last night. They just need your signature. Claire froze like I had just struck her across the face. For a long moment, she didn't respond. So you're really doing this? No, I said quietly. You already did this last night. I'm just reacting. Her bottom lip trembled. You didn't even give me a chance to make things right. You didn't come home to fix anything, Claire. I said evenly. You came home, smiling. She sat down again, slower this time, like she wasn't sure the floor beneath her was still solid. Her hand hovered over the envelope, but didn't touch it. I made a mistake, she whispered. I let out a slow breath through my nose. No, you made a series of choices, not a mistake. A mistake is something you stumble into. What you did, that took effort, secrecy, planning. Her voice dropped, barely audible. So this is it? You're just walking away? No, I met her eyes steady. I stayed far longer than I should have. I spent months watching you drift away, hoping things would get better, convincing myself maybe you were just lost, or maybe I was enough. I motioned toward the photos on the table. But you weren't lost. You were looking and you found him. Tears finally spilled down her cheeks. But I didn't move. This isn't payback, I said. It's clarity. This is what self-respect looks like when a man sits up at 5 in the morning and watches his wife come home from another man's bed, grinning like she got away with it. She opened her mouth to speak, but I lifted a hand, stopping her. There's nothing you can say now that changes what's on that table. Her hands trembled. I didn't push. I let her sit with it. I had already made peace with what came next. She didn't sign right away. She sat there, the papers resting in her lap, eyes red, mascara smudge, hands shaking. Every few moments, she looked up at me like she was waiting for me to crack, to say something, to leave a door open she could still walk through. But I stayed silent. I still love you, she whispered at last. I gave a small nod. Maybe, but not enough to stay faithful. She wiped her face with the sleeve of her sweater. We were falling apart. Adam, you know that. You've been sleeping in the guest room for weeks. You don't even look at me the same way anymore. Because I saw it coming, I said. The distance, the late nights, the fake laughs. I didn't want to believe it, but deep down I knew. And instead of coming to me, you ran to someone else. Her voice rose slightly. You think I want to feel invisible? To feel like I didn't matter? No, I answered calmly. I think you wanted attention. And you got it. Now you just don't like what it cost you. Claire shot to her feet, frustration bubbling over. You were always working. You were never home. I felt like I didn't even exist to you. I gave a slow shrug. So you cheated to kill time? Her mouth opened, but nothing came out. I took a step forward. Not to intimidate her, but to show her I wasn't afraid anymore. You know the difference between us? I said, I was struggling too, but I didn't use that as an excuse to betray you. She sank back into her chair, shoulders slumped. You think this is about punishing you? I said, it's not. This is me choosing peace over chaos, dignity over patching up something that's beyond repair. She finally lifted her head, her voice small. So that's it? You're not even mad. I said honestly. But it's hard to stay angry at someone once you realize they were never really yours to begin with. She buried her face in her hands. I turned toward the hallway, grabbed the duffel bag I'd packed earlier, and slung it over my shoulder. I'll be gone by noon, I said without glancing back. You can sign the papers and mail them, or not. But this, I gestured toward the table. This was the last time I'll ever sit across from you. I didn't slam anything. I picked up my keys from the counter and headed for the front door like I was leaving for another ordinary day. Claire stayed where she was, frozen at the kitchen table, staring at those divorce papers like they were written in some foreign language she couldn't read. I paused at the door, not because I was second-guessing. That part was long gone. This pause felt clean, like the quiet ending something deserves when there's nothing left worth saving. She looked up, her voice faint, her face streaked. Where are you going? Somewhere I could start over. I said, Adam, her voice cracked. Please, don't just leave like this. I met her gaze. You already left, Claire. You just didn't expect me to do the same. She stood, maybe to stop me, maybe to chase after me, but she didn't move. And I didn't offer her a speech. No big farewell. No dramatic exit line. Just the truth, the one she already knew and couldn't change. You came home smiling, I said, from your one-night stand. I stepped outside and pulled the door shut behind me. What I left on that table. I let that thought finish itself. Out on the driveway, the morning air felt lighter. No weight pressing on my chest. Just the sound of my own footsteps and the soft hum of a world slowly waking up. When I got in the car, I didn't look back at the house. I didn't have to, because some endings don't need closure. They just need a decision. And I'd made mine,